Bum, 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 bum. Okay. Okay, what is up, everyone? Today I wanted to just test out the stream and see how things are going. Last time, I think a lot of I was experiencing a lot of problems just streaming, and I believe the connection was being frozen for some reason. So I'm trying to make sure things are okay, so the next time I stream, the whole thing doesn't fall apart. So I'm just gonna sit here and chill for a little bit. I have your chat open on another window that you probably can't see right now, but I'm looking at the chat, and so I am going to just code a little bit, nothing too meaningful, but I'm just gonna work on some React coding so that you guys can see how I actually prepare some of the tutorials or whatnot. So yeah, so feel free to drop a comment on the side. I'm just coding on my own right now, and you guys feel free to either drop out or kind of just join me while I code here. Yeah, so what I'm trying to do is actually build out some of these views that are on the YouTube website. So I'm gonna try to build out this trending section over here, and while you guys are here, let me know if you have any questions. I don't know if I'm going to answer too many of the questions that I have in the stream today. So I'm just going to go ahead and start coding on the side. So you guys already know that I build a lot of projects in React. So that's what I'm going to do for today's video. So I'm going to build out this trending section over here, which looks kind of like that. So I'm just going to work towards that idea. So let me get a div here and image div. Okay, so that comes up there. So let's see, img src equals something. And yeah, so this is kind of how I work. Can't get any images here. So let's see, what can I do with images? Let's see, Halloween image. Let's just take this guy over here, copy image address, and here we go. So let's put that guy in there. Does that work? That doesn't look like it's gonna work. So hit that, hit this thing, copy image address. Okay, so that looks decent. Say, so I'm gonna image thing and no hot linking. Okay, that image works for me. So let's just get this guy in. Yeah, so the padding's going to push it to the right a little bit. And let's see, get some spacing here, style. Let's see, margin, top, soil. Okay, good. Okay, so let's give this guy a height. Yeah, there's a lot of properties on HTML that's really hard to remember. So this image is kind of scaled incorrectly. I can't remember the exact CSS to get this to scale. I think it's like scale type or align self. Too many things to remember. I think I've been coding way too much, and the fact that I work with so many different languages, like I can no longer remember what's what. Okay. Okay, so this looks like a good div. So this is a 16 by 9 div or image. So I'm going to use that. Let's see. I'm going to try to duplicate this so that it wraps to the right and wraps around the table. Yeah, very hard to code live, but this is all the stuff that I actually do while I'm preparing for the videos on the channel. Yeah, I'm just going to keep going. Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. The return in the render function is usually with parentheses to avoid compilation errors. Yeah. That's actually something I would also typically do. This project was kind of set up randomly, so that's kind of why it looks like that. I wonder if there's an easier way to wrap these objects without having to introduce this left margin. Is there an easier way of doing that? There's probably a way. I think I thought of how to do this in my other project. I should probably start using CSS grids to lay out some of these objects. margin right. Let's play margin right. Style. God. So one question up here from Fernando is, do you prefer Swift or React? I think Swift, I guess I'll answer this question in terms of the efficiency of a developer's time. So when you're programming in Swift, everything takes forever to compile and rebuild and relaunch into the simulator, whereas if you're using React, reloading the browser is super quick. So when you're programming in JavaScript and React, it's like you're getting 10 times the amount of efficiency, and Swift is just horribly slow. Alex says that, so you took my comment seriously, haha. I'm not exactly sure which comment you're referring to, but that's good. You know, I always take feedback and hopefully constructive criticism on this channel and try to improve as I go along. It's popping. Mojave, you can download it if you have your Apple's developer account. Just pay, I don't know, $100 for the yearly membership and you should be okay. So let's see, what can I do here? Okay, so I'm gonna grab a real image because this Pixabay thing is really not that pretty. So I have something somewhere, hopefully. What do I have? Okay, so far it seems like the stream is staying alive. Last time I feel like the stream was dying every 10 minutes. So now everything looks okay. I think I modified my settings, and now I don't think it's taking as much CPU power. So I guess my computer is holding up in terms of the stream. It's React, been a while. It's 5:40 a.m. right now where I live. Wow. Either you woke up really early or you're staying up really late. Prefer Firefox for development. I don't really have a preference. Well, I guess I do. I think Chrome is just easier to use overall. I don't remember the CSS tag to fix the image ratio, but whatever. I guess that's fine. Okay. So it looks like having 8 images will break this thing. People are asking me where I live. I live in San Francisco. Is probably the closest city that you guys are familiar with. I live outside of San Francisco, about 10 minutes, and it's it's a decent place. Kevin Cho says I sacrificed to be a data engineer over web developer, just going where the money is. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Let me see if I can add the chat into the room here. Add window capture, chat box, create new, open chat. Where's this chat thing? Is this? Okay, what does that look like? I think now you guys can see the chat a little bit. I don't know, you guys can't see the code anymore, but I guess no one really cares about the code. No, maybe I'll put it over here. So are you making more Kotlin tutorials? So to be honest, the thing that's lowest on my priority is probably Kotlin. So here are the priorities that I have currently for the channel. First thing is to always produce the best type of Swift tutorials and Swift content as possible. That's mainly the bread and butter of the channel, at least for now. And then the second priority is to produce probably either web, either React JS content or Android Kotlin tutorials. I haven't really decided upon amongst the two. I personally like doing web development more than Android development because I can actually use it for the website that holds all the videos of the channel and the courses as well. But yeah, what do you think about making an app using React Native or Flutter? I would highly I would hold off if you're trying to become a full-time developer. I would hold off on learning. I would hold off on learning those two tools as your primary development style. That's all I have to say. iOS, yeah. So I'm still doing a lot of iOS tutorials, and that's mainly what I'm doing. So having worked on the website for the last month, I think I've been doing just so much JavaScript development that it's become kind of second nature for me to just write JavaScript now. And so it's really easy, and I like doing it a lot. Coding GUI in general, it's pretty much the same. Either web, mobile, they're all just different flavor of MVC. Yeah, I tend to agree. React Native or Flutter, what do you think? Between the two, React Native or Flutter, you probably have a better bet with React Native. Flutter has a lot of limitations that are kind of concerning. In terms of native versus React Native and Flutter, I would always choose native first. The amount of jobs that you can find using React Native or Flutter is probably 1 or 0.5% of native jobs. Let's go to sleep. Okay. Does Apple accept these hybrid apps into the App Store? I don't know. Don't really care. Love your videos. How often do you study technical stuff about a language? For example, this in JS or React lifecycle, stuff like that. I don't actually go out of my way to study the technical stuff. I do pay very close attention to the technicalities of lifecycle and language structures whenever the issues arise that I have to deal with that. But I don't go out of my way to like study that kind of thing. Do you apply dependency injection in real projects with development? Yep. You always have to test your applications when they go in production. So dependency injection is one way to make sure your code is well written out and well thought out. Best iOS teacher. Yeah, I would think that there aren't a lot of very useful iOS coding channels out there right now. For whatever reason, you guys probably noticed that some of the iOS channels are just kind of dead right now. I think Jared Davidson, his channel is kind of he's not updating as often. Sean Allen's channel is doing pretty well. He doesn't do a lot of coding, so it's more of a probably like a non-coding channel for now. And the other channels that used to do coding, I think there's a channel called like Brian Advent. He does some coding, or he does mostly coding, but doesn't seem like he's pushing out a lot of content on his channel. He's probably really busy. More tutorials, Core ML coming or not. I'm not a big machine learning person, so I don't have a huge interest in that segment. In the future, I do believe the hybrid framework will win out. Is silly to create same apps on native language, maybe in 2 to 3 years. This is a hard question to answer for people that haven't been programming for at least 5 to 10 years, because okay, so I think this is where the moment my computer actually starts to freeze. Okay, so the stream is back. So that's what the freezing I was mentioning earlier kind of feels like. I don't know exactly what's causing the stream to freeze, actually. It just seems like my computer, I'm trying to check if anything's out of the ordinary. So for example, the CPU seems okay, memory seems okay, CPU. So OBS seems to be taking all of the CPU, which is the broadcasting software. It's really strange. I think the streaming software is just eating up my computer alive. That's weird. Yeah. If it freezes again, I'll probably just close out the stream and try to debug what the problem is. Why don't you make tutorials in TensorSwift? I don't really know TensorSwift. Yeah. TensorFlow is a very interesting subject, interesting topic. I wish I really had the time to actually do it. I mean, to actually dive in and learn, and slowly start to advance my knowledge in that specific area. Would you be willing to do one-on-one advising for cash? Just curious. So there's a mentoring. There's a link that you can actually find on, I believe, the YouTube about page on my channel that shows you a link to where you can get one-on-one tutoring. It's $125 an hour. I don't advertise it because it's kind of expensive, but at the same time, I don't really have a huge need to like do mentoring unless people really need to do it. So it's there. It's $125 if you want to engage in one-on-one mentoring sessions. Loving the React series. I've been meaning to learn it, and you're helping me get started. Yeah. TensorFlow, good for iOS machine learning? Probably. I missed the question. Yeah, so I'm just saying that ever since I think 10 years ago, maybe even earlier, there's always been some kind of one solution for all type of language, but it's never worked out. So if you've been doing this for 5 to 10 years, you can see that, you see the pattern. All of these languages, eventually, they're just not as good as native. So native always wins out. Can you do a tutorial on container view controllers? I don't know. That seems like more of a storyboard thing. I have no idea how it works actually. What are your thoughts on doing programming challenges or HackerRank Code Wars, Project Euler? I don't know. I'm not a big fan of just doing algorithms just for the sake of doing algorithms, but it's not a bad thing to do. Like personally, I'm not someone that finds that interesting personally, but everyone has their different take on that. Would also like a tutorial on container views. I don't really know how to use container views actually. I just do everything programmatically, so I have control over everything. So everything I add into the view is technically just a container view. Like it's really simple, and when you're doing everything in code, it's like super simple. So there's really no notion of a container view, at least as far as I understand it. For your next course, especially iOS, there's a course for a universal app without the storyboard for iPad. Yeah. I don't know. I don't really build courses for the iPad because it's such a small niche market that basically if you know how to use if you know how to program for iOS, the iPhone, then the iPad shouldn't be that hard. If about UI Kit and Active for the Mac, I don't know. It's very interesting what they're trying to do with the expansion of trying to get iOS apps working for Mac. I don't know how far they're going to take it though. It'll be fun to see how the interaction of the mouse will work on the screen. So for apps like WhatsApp and maybe Facebook Messenger, I think those are probably better than the websites in terms of like the usage. And yeah, I think it'll be a decent change. And I think some developers are making a huge stink about how they have to write so much additional code for the iOS apps to work on the Mac. I don't think the changes are going to be that dramatic. It's probably like 2 or 3 lines to say, okay, enable Mac mode, and then your iOS app should work. I'm trying to get one of my development because my Mac Mini is pretty slow. Okay. Kevin chose, people keep asking me which language learn. I just say learn the language that's most demanded and get paid the most. Do hobby language at home. So I kind of have a different take on this question about what the best language to learn is, and a couple of plenty of senior engineers have the same thought that it doesn't matter what your language you learn is. It doesn't necessarily have to be the most demanding or the most sought out language either. The one recommendation I have when studying a particular language is You want to find the language that you think is interesting and you think is fun to learn. And most importantly of all, the language should have resources accessible to you that you can engage with. If you don't have the resources to a certain language, then you're probably not going to learn it that well or that fast. So just find what's fun and keep on getting better at that language. So it doesn't have to be anything extremely useful. Most places that hire you don't really. Well, I guess that's a different discussion, but yeah. How do you add multiple collection view table in a view controller? Well, you just add it. Ionic Xamarin is native. I don't know. So one thing I'll say is that a lot of people have this weird question or this weird obsession about native versus cross-platform versus like React Native and Flutter. I would say stop obsessing over that. No one really cares. Like honestly, most people develop native anyways, so people feel like cross-platform is the way to go, and people have felt that way for the last 20 years. So people should start asking why does native still exist, right? It's the easy answer. Like native will never go away. Native is always easier to program with. When is the Tinder course coming out? I don't really know. I'm still working on a lot of things on the website, so yeah, just being a one-man team and having to work on everything, it's a little time consuming. It's not that I don't like it, but I just realize that it takes time to get some of the things out that I want. Hybrid will win out eventually. It just makes sense from technical business perspective. Native only makes sense if you're making a video game or some graphic intensive app. So this is like in general, reading this statement makes sense. So if you're a CEO and you would come to this conclusion that it makes business sense to have your apps built out using cross-platform technology, but from an engineering perspective, it's not the case. And that requires a huge discussion as to why. I've enjoyed the Instagram course. It was so amazing. Yeah, the Instagram course has gotten a lot of positive feedback. More than, I don't know the exact numbers, but then there's like probably like a couple hundred or 1,000 people that have enrolled in that course. So it's doing pretty well. I do plan on updating it sometime probably next month. So we'll see. I'm doing completely programmatically. I understood it now better than before, but if struck somewhere else, it took me days to figure out. Level understanding improves faster. Yeah, if you're stuck somewhere. Plan on a new iOS course. So yeah, I have two. I'm actually working on 2 courses right now. So I plan on working on a 3rd course, and then releasing 3 courses at a time. That way I can just get it all done and do everything in batch instead of just pushing out course by course, which while it might seem easier in the beginning, definitely is more time consuming. Machine learning in the future, yeah. Seems like a great thing for most people. Again, I'm not a huge, I don't have a diverse background in machine learning. I wish I did, but I think for someone that's older, getting into machine learning is not as enticing, I would say. Can you make videos on the Vapor framework? I'm not a huge fan of Swift as a backend, so the reason why Swift as a backend is not a huge thing for me is because I know like 5 different other languages for backends, so like Node.js, Golang, PHP, and Java and Ruby. So all of those languages develop when you're writing the backend. It's a lot faster. So when I have to write Swift as a backend, I just feel like I'm doing things 10 times as slow. And it's not just a learning curve, but it runs really slow. I can't stand it. So Kevin says that sadly I sacrificed fun with more money, crying with $100 bills. You know what, Kevin? I think I did the same thing as well. But I mean, I chose Swift and I chose mobile development. So luckily for me, I think mobile development is a pretty high-paying job in terms of the Silicon Valley. So I don't know. I think picking Swift is not a bad way to go. Do you recommend Linda? I recommend everything that you can find that you find engaging. So the hardest thing to find in this world is probably something that's engaging that you can learn from. Once you get a hold of some course that teaches you at a pace that you're comfortable with, then I say stick with that. It doesn't have to be this channel. It doesn't have to be anyone else. You just have to find what kind of suits you and your style of learning. Twitter app with Redis or Mongo. I don't know. Isn't Redis a caching library and Mongo is a NoSQL DB? So aren't they totally different things? So kind of hard to choose because they're different. How much are you earning per month? I would say that earnings in terms of I would say relative to what I was making full time, I have more in terms of what I wanted than when I was working full time. So that's not to say that like in terms of dollars I'm earning more, but the huge benefits I have now is I work when I wake up. Like literally I get out of my bed and then I get ready and then I'm in my living room and I start working. So that's the huge thing for me. I'm also kind of just working on my own thing that I can build out. That's another huge thing that money can't really replace that. So I think, and also I have the freedom to kind of go anywhere I want. So for example, if I'm earning like $200,000 being an iOS developer in San Francisco, the housing cost is actually more, that's insane out here, the housing costs. So if you make $100,000 and you move somewhere else, you actually are earning more money, like $100,000 somewhere else compared to $200,000 in San Francisco. It's definitely relative. So yeah. Did this channel lead to some job opportunities? Yeah, some contracting opportunities, but I don't really like doing contracting and consulting so much, so I've sort of declined those offers. What's the best resource? I don't know. I wish people would stop asking what's the best X and what's the best Y. It's a really silly question. I mean, it's whatever you find useful is going to be best to you. What I find useful isn't going to be useful to you at this point, I don't think. Yeah. Did I receive my silver button? I applied for the 100K silver button, but I never got the notification to sign up for it or to actually have them send it to me. So I'm not really, actually it's not even on my mind most of the days, or most of my time when I'm awake. It's not really on my mind. Can you make a video about building a resume? To be honest, I don't have a really strong resume sense. I just follow what is on the internet. So like every time I send out a resume, I think I have like a 50% chance of getting a callback. So I guess that's pretty good. So maybe I will do a resume video. The thing about me is like I don't really like giving advice to people that where I don't feel super qualified to give resume advice, because I've seen so many different resumes be successful. I definitely know the pattern that engineers like to see in terms of resumes. So maybe I will do something. Yeah, from Australia, James. Yeah, cool. Okay, looks like the comments are kind of rolling in. I don't really know if I want to keep on doing this. So let's see. I kind of want to put the name down here. So let's see, return div. Okay. Okay. So yeah, this should be really return parentheses. Okay, so image. Div. So I think YouTube has like this title here, so it's like video name or something. Wow, that's really large. So let's take this, put a div video name. Okay, looks better. Style, let's say font size, I don't know, 16 maybe. I think it's actually not that big. I just have this maxed to really large. Okay. Okay, so video name, that looks a little bit too tall. So I think margin bottom should go on the div itself. So a lot of times when I'm actually writing out the code that you guys see on the videos, let me tell you this, when I'm recording those videos, it's usually done in probably 3 takes. Sometimes I'll go to 4 takes, but normally I know the code pretty well to the point where it doesn't require more than 3 takes. Yeah, I'll make mistakes along the way, and then I'll try to improve as I record more and more videos. So that's kind of what you see as my workflow. So if I want to change the name to something else, like let's say, you know, Taylor Swift for number 1, and we have Jimmy Fallon as number 2. Yeah, how can I make this look better? Maybe that, and map. Yeah, it looks decent. So let's see my own channel. Okay, hit the save. We have that. Inside of here, we can just say I think that's what it is. Name here. Name. Okay, so that looks okay. So I think trending needs to be a little larger. Font weight. Hold. Font size 18 maybe. So trending is a little bit larger. 12 margin bottom. So one thing that's very important is actually getting the styles correct. When you are applying for iOS jobs, most iOS developers are very into like pixel perfection in terms of UI layout. If you don't have something that looks half decent in your portfolio project, it really looks kind of like you didn't put enough effort into it. So I would highly recommend people hire designers to help polish up the application. Like it probably costs you like, I don't know, $100 to $200, but it goes a long way. Okay, so here we can start introducing things. So this is the channel name. So name for a Taylor Swift song. I don't know, breakup. I don't know. I don't really know Taylor Swift songs myself, but it seems like that's her thing. So Jimmy Fallon. Late night show. Create an iOS app. Okay, so that looks good. I think I need the name, and then I need probably the channel name. Okay, so this is the object. We'll say video. Yeah, most of the time it takes a while for these projects to actually look interesting. And yeah, you know, a little bit of build up. So I think this might be 14 or 12 maybe. So get the font down a little bit. Maybe this is 14. Yeah, that looks better, I guess. So maybe this is a color of, I don't know, pound 99. Okay, that looks a little bit too white, so 0, 0. That looks, I don't know. Yeah, not really good at the colors, but that looks fine. Yeah, margin, I don't know, 12 or okay. I think this could use probably the same thing. Test this out. Huh. Interesting. Okay, so back to the chat. Do you have a video on what equipment you use for recording, such as what cam, audio, etc.? I have a video on the microphone that I use, but I think it's somewhat more expensive than what you probably want. I use a camera. I use a GH4. It's not great, but it does the job pretty well. So let's see if I turn myself a little bit larger. Okay, I think I'm done with some of the coding that I wanted to test out. So let's see if we can bump up the chat here. Okay, and make it skinnier. Okay. What's going on? Okay. What kind of microphone am I using? A webcam? So yeah, I use a DSLR or mirrorless camera, GH4. The mic I'm actually using a Rode NT1A. It's probably a little, yeah, it's expensive. That's some fancy JavaScript there. Not familiar with all that you're doing. Yeah, it's not exactly JavaScript. It's JavaScript mixed with JSX. So same question as JP. Yeah. Yeah, so there's a video in the channel that I did probably like 2 months ago about the camera that I use, or not the camera, but the microphone. Yeah, Rode NT1. Hope he answers. Can you make a video newer Swift tutorial with iOS 12 for beginners? There's really no difference between iOS 12 and previous versions of iOS. They're all pretty much the same. It's a bit strange. He's creating a div block, but it's showing an inline block. Maybe he has CSS to make it as inline block. So to be honest, I'm not like a super expert on HTML, but the way that I understand it to work kind of looks like this. I'm probably doing a ton of different incorrect, like the way I'm setting things up, probably a little incorrect, but that's just the way I understand how it works. So yeah, so here's what maybe I'll put it in front. So here's what this thing looks like. If I expand it, it'll go over there. If I expand it some more, it'll go over there. So this is using a flex box this Flexbox CSS Flexbox container. So it allows you to wrap things to the left and right. So makes it easier to develop. I really wished, I guess does iOS have this? I guess the collection view kind of does this. So it's this is the collection view flow layout. Okay. What after learning programming basics I lost what I should do? Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a really good answer for people that don't know what they want out of programming. So this feels like one of those questions. When I was studying programming, I always had a goal in mind. First it was to build games, and then it was to build websites, and then it was to build interactive mobile applications. So I always worked towards those goals. I never started out learning the basics, actually. Yeah, I never saw programming as something that required that either. So to me, it was more like learning how to cook. You just pick up the recipe book and then you start cooking things until you get better and better at it. So the better I got at it, the more I knew overall. I think Mexico's Flash is not allowed in the chat. Yeah, I don't know. Why am I not using Vue? I don't know Vue, so could you suggest some project ideas a person new to coding could pursue? I don't know. These are another one of those types of questions where it's like it's heavily dependent on yourself. No one's gonna be able to pick a project that you find interesting. At least I don't think. Or I guess some project ideas for a new person. I don't know. Build a calculator. That's it's a hard project to build out. It sounds easy, but it's kind of hard. All frameworks are great. Yep, I agree. Best suggestion for iOS programmers is to give some important tips. Love from India, like the videos. Best suggestions for iOS programmers? I don't know. Geez, I don't know. Yeah, again, I don't like giving these type of answers to these types of questions because everything is so hugely dependent on what type of person you are and what your interests are. So I don't know. I guess for me, best suggestions if I was just learning programming, I guess it's like just keep coding. That's a super generic answer, but so I'm just trying to imagine myself 10 years ago when I was already programming 10 years ago, so maybe like 15, 20 years ago. I think one thing that people don't understand is that programming is not a so programming is not like going to school and studying for some kind of subject, remembering everything, and then somehow getting an exam and filling out the right answers and getting an A. Programming courses are set up like that. Maybe half of it is set up like that. But programming itself requires you to like really give the effort that like a basketball player gives basketball. You go in every day, you practice, you shoot 1,000 shots, you get better at your form, you run, you work out, you train your body. So you live and breathe basketball, and programming is like that. You live and breathe it. There's really no thing that kind of says, oh, okay, you do this and you'll get better at it. You just have to spend every day doing it. Do you recommend start with Kotlin or Flutter? I don't know. Whatever you prefer. I really don't have any suggestion there. Wouldn't using Bootstrap be better? So I used to use Bootstrap. I don't know. I found Bootstrap to be it was very limiting. I couldn't control my website when I was using Bootstrap, so I decided to not use Bootstrap anymore. Just build something you like. When I was starting, someone told me to work on something I liked. If you want to get far, do something you are interested in. Otherwise, you will dread it. Exactly. And the beginning phases aren't times to dread. Yeah. Like the reason why a lot of professional developers get into programming is because they found it really fun. Like putting together puzzles, putting together Legos, that's fun. Programming is kind of like that. You're just putting together pieces and then you run it and then something comes out and it's pretty exciting. It might not seem, it seems like it seems pretty boring for people that don't understand it, but it's fun. It's like a puzzle. Competitive programming. So I don't do competitive programming, so I don't know. Would you ever partner on an app? Probably not. I don't really build apps anymore. Interview questions for freshers, iOS developer. I don't know, Google. Hello from Algeria. How do you stop from being programming fatigue or not getting burnt out? Just curious on what your life outside of programming, such as exercising and other things that keeps your life productive. So yeah, these are two good questions that I'll answer because some questions are better than others. How do you keep from programming fatigue? So you know how people like to watch TV and just sit down and turn on Netflix and watch their favorite show? I get that same feeling when I sit down and program. I actually prefer sitting next to the computer and typing code. That's like my hobby. So if you ever find, it's like a hobby, you'll never experience fatigue from a hobby. So I've never really experienced fatigue from programming. Like literally, I never really experienced fatigue. If I get bored of a certain language, there's always 10 different other languages to learn or 10 different frameworks to get into. So I've never felt programming fatigue. Getting burnt out is a different question. I have gotten burnt out at work. So some of the reasons why I got burnt out at work is because I kind of I built out an application that was performing quite well, and all I did was just maintain that application for half a year, and basically I wasn't really doing very much. So I kind of got burnt out there. It's not working, not learning. That's a good way to burn out. So my life outside of programming is pretty normal. I'm a huge basketball person, or I used to be. So I play basketball, tennis, and hang out and do some things. I don't really have too much of a social life anymore because I think all my energy is focused on this YouTube channel. Whether that's sad or not, it's I guess as you get older, you tend to sacrifice things that aren't going to pay out in the end. So the return on your investment of time somewhere, you kind of value that more. And I value putting time into this channel and just talking to everyone here a little bit more these days. To explain more, will you ever partner with someone to help build their app? Yeah, so probably not. I think I'm a pretty bad partner, so I don't find myself being a very good partner to work with. Maybe because I don't like doing it, so I come off as someone that doesn't act as a good partner. So yeah. I'm studying computer science right now, and I took data structures last semester and tried to study and apply what I learned. With some struggle without help. I don't know. School sucks. What school did you go to, and what degree did you get? So if you look at my LinkedIn profile, you'll see the school that I graduated from. It's not that it's a bad school, but I don't really like talking about schools anymore. Any suggestions on improving? So the thing with learning anything new is that you have to have a resource that you actually like to learn from. So for me, the internet is always a pretty good place for me to go to learn things. For things dealing with school, I always had a hard time learning from my instructors, my professors, and the people that I got the most help from was actually like some of the TAs. And I was dependent on some of the TAs. A lot of the classes that I got like a B or a C in, just like the professor wasn't very helpful or engaging. And so, yeah. Like having graduated from school for more than 12, 13 years, 14 years maybe, I kind of see that, it's not that important. Getting good grades is, after you graduate out of school for maybe a year or two, after your first job, your grades matter 0%. Literally after you get your first job, your grade does not matter at all. Before you get your first job, your grades probably matter, I don't know, 30% or 20% maybe. So going to college, getting your 4-year degree, getting good grades, in the end, that matters like 20% of your actual, that piece of paper is worth 20% of what you think it's worth. Yep, just keep coding. Are you happy with the Golden State win? I guess. I can't say that it felt satisfying. It kind of felt like a extremely easy win, taking candy from a baby. Not too satisfied with how it turned out, but a win's a win. Can you make a video on parsing JSON using Codable and a table view or parsing an image as well? I'm not clear about it. So I don't know if you're trolling me with this question, but I think I made 5 or 10 different videos on how to do this. So I guess I can make another 5 until people can finally understand how it works. Is what you learn in school relevant to your work? In other words, did what you learn in school apply to the real world or different from work experience? I think that what I learned in school, let's just focus on computer science in general. I think computer science, the first 2 years of it was extremely helpful. The other couple of courses that I took in computer science were not. So that's anything in life. You get like your return after a certain amount of time you invest in something just isn't that high anymore. It's kind of hard to keep going if something I don't understand, something I know that it's worth learning and really want to do this, but hard to do when I don't feel like I'm progressing, improving. Yeah, I understand how that feels. That's kind of how I felt at school as well. I don't really know what to say about that. I just think that when you're finding yourself having a difficulty understanding what the professor is trying to teach you, it's really not your fault. It's really the professor's fault, right? So I don't want to blame or shift the blame onto the professor, but not everyone is able to learn from that same teaching style. You'll find that if you took a survey of all of the students in your course or in your class, probably like 40% or 30% of the other students are having difficulties as well. So you're not the only one. Yeah, I really wish there was more of a support group for people that are just having a horrible time understanding the professor. Have my first big iOS dev interview on Friday, going from a junior dev at a startup to mid-level dev at a more corporate company. Any advice going from a team of 2 iOS devs to more than 5? So I think the most important thing that companies look for at that size, at a mid-level size, is the ability to work in a team together. So for example, you probably need to know how to work with GitHub, how to merge code together on certain feature branches, and just know how to work with other teammates in general, and how to shift or how to separate out your code so that other people can take it and use it. Yeah, and just show that you're able to communicate. So that's a huge thing. You don't get fatigued until you do React Native and have a deal with this BS. So yeah, that's another thing that I've one reason why I try to stay away from cross-platform tools is there's always these endless little traps that you fall into when you're trying to go cross-platform. And it turns out the effort that you spent in there, you might as well have just written it in native. Love basketball. Yeah, I just watched Kobe highlight videos and I saw your comment there. World is so small, right? Yeah. A lot of Kobe fans. You should test the Waterstorm machine learning and mine gets blown daily, challenging Swift TensorFlow. That was dead. Yeah, maybe I'll make a somewhat of a small tutorial on TensorFlow when I learn it, and then if I can make a course on it and try to take all your guys' money with that course, then maybe I'll do it. Any tips for when we get that first developer job? So, yeah, I have a lot of ideas on like your actual first job. I just think that don't afraid to be very question heavy. So people that the interns that ask a lot of questions are always the best ones. Of course, you don't want to constantly bother your mentor with stupid, silly questions, but at least try to ask as many things as you can that pertain to what you're trying to develop. That's the one tip that I would give myself if I was to start all over again. Best laptop for Swift development? I don't know, a Mac. Lamp behind you turned off. Is that automated? I think that little light back there is like flickering for some reason. It's definitely not automated. Did you find your career as a programmer fulfilling and meaningful? Is it fulfilling and meaningful? I think after having done it for so long, I can't really say that it's fulfilling anymore. I think in the beginning, the first 5 to 10 years, it was fun, and after a while, it becomes such a big part of you that you can't really live life without doing it. Yeah. Is Google or Facebook still using Cocoa Touch? I don't know. Probably. Well, if you plan on publishing any iOS apps, I'm guessing a Mac would probably be the best. Yeah, me too. One of the best resources, books, websites. I don't know. Google is probably pretty good. Hello, Brian. I am facing a issue with uploading video in chunks on YouTube via YouTube API v3. Well, good luck with that. I've never really worked with those APIs. Think form a study group, maybe. Hello, I received a job offer for an entry-level position and do not feel like I'm capable of doing what they're going to need. Any advice? Well, there's always going to be mentors that help you along the way. Hello, Chrysler Chi. Mentors and supervisors, managers will help you kind of get going. So I believe this is kind of related to the imposter syndrome. Don't feel too bad about going into a job where you don't feel totally qualified. We all go through that at least once in our lives. And yeah. Yeah, just make sure that you understand the basics of the job that you're getting into. So, if you're trying to if you just got hired as an iOS developer, make sure you know the fundamentals of iOS. React or Flutter, don't really care. How is future of PWAs? Should I start learning it? PWAs were like, they had a huge buzz a year ago and now you don't hear about them anymore. Very similar to many other Google technologies, you don't hear about it after a year. So, I don't know, Flutter is going to go away after a year, maybe, probably. I wouldn't bet my money on Flutter. How to use AI with website? I don't know. Well, how to use AI with anything? React Native versus Flutter? Which one do you prefer? Again, I don't really care. Hey, I'm from Brazil, currently an intern using JHipster framework and doing Udacity Data Science Foundation. I plan on moving abroad when I finish my bachelor next year. Any specific tips for foreigners? Yeah, I don't know. So when I was in China, or when last year I taught in China for like 2 weeks, And I found that a lot of the foreigners, or maybe I was the foreigner over there, but we were teaching in an English class, and I think something that you have to do is you got to make sure that the language barrier is not to the point where you can't communicate with people. So even if there's a language barrier, make sure to overcome it somehow. You know, you got to ask questions. You got to be able to work with the people on your team, which is the most important thing of all. How often do you have a good idea or some apps or games? Probably never. I'm not a huge person that likes to build out. Like, I don't know. I don't have genius ideas that I want to work on. Is dev career sustainable given that many older programmers phase out of their careers if they don't take on more managerial positions? Yeah, I don't think a lot of engineers actually stay in the field after. I don't know, that's not true. Yeah, I kind of have that same concern of, well, a lot of my friends around my age, you know, mid 30s maybe, you don't really want to be programming forever. You know, that's kind of one of the reasons why I started this YouTube channel. Something different for me, and I didn't really want to go the manager route. I didn't want to go the architect route. I wanted to do something that's more. I wanted to go in the field where I can do many different things at the same time. So right now, you know, I'm learning about video editing, learning how to put websites together. Like before I created this YouTube channel, I never worked on websites, and that's always something I wanted to do. So now I have the opportunity to learn, you know, React, JS, put together all that code and make use of everything. Yeah. And you know, yeah, you know, the website's doing well. I can't really complain. There's a lot of people supporting it. So yeah. Who knows if it's a good move or not. I mean, I don't really regret anything I do, but we'll see. Do you think Firebase can scale to millions of users? Yeah, I think Discord uses Firebase. So if the Twitch chat can support all those users, then yeah, I think it should, or at least it used to. A company done React Native for 1.5 years now. Looking back, it was a big mistake. Yeah, so all of the advantages and all the bells and whistles that come with cross-platform development tools, there's a huge sacrifice for the things that it can't do. So for example, if you want to modify like the back button in React Native, you probably have to go through like some kind of pre-built library, or you have to hack underneath React Native to custom change that back button, because the back button is actually pretty specific and pretty special. So I would imagine like something like that requires you to put in so much time to get it right, and then you have to make sure that it runs correctly on all prior iOS versions. Yeah, it sounds simple. Everything sounds really simple until you get into the weeds of how it really works, and then you realize that, okay, the pros and cons that I previously thought about, it's not entirely correct. Can you make some tutorials videos on ARKit? Maybe. I have not built out any ARKit apps yet, so it's probably not that hard. I just have to spend a little bit of time on it. Yeah, so you see how this channel has like a ton of different projects on it. I think it takes me like a day or two to learn that specific technology, and then just build out something interesting out of it. Takes another 2 or 3 days. So I feel like everyone should take that same approach, where, you know, you see something interesting, you work on it for a little bit, and then you slowly figure out how it works. I depend heavily on Apple's documentation to figure out how everything works. And if you are trying to get better at iOS development, learning how to read Apple documentation is very important. I remember the days when I had to look through Android and Java documentation to understand everything. It was very intimidating at first, because the moment you click into the doc, you get this huge wall of text where there are no explanations. So again, it's intimidating, overwhelming as well. But you just have to get better and better at reading the docs. Government or private sector? I don't know. Is PWA will change mobile developers? I don't know. You don't hear about PWA anymore. Let's see. Where are we? Okay, it seems like the questions are flooding in. I think I've let open the floodgates. Okay, here's hear my music. Yeah, so I have a video. So I did a video earlier today about someone that got hired as an iOS developer, having shown that he was able to not rely on the storyboard. So, I don't know if it's probably not my best video, but it's going to come out in tomorrow morning in about 12 hours. So most of the time when I make a video and then I hit the publish button, I'm like, I could have did better, but whatever. It's out there now. Yeah. And the other thing about making videos is that when I'm making the videos where I'm just talking without coding, I actually find that harder than the ones where I'm coding, because like I have to figure out what to say. I don't really have a script. The code usually acts as a script that I follow. So when I'm just talking in front of the camera, I don't know. It's not really a whole lot to talk about. It feels a little strange to be talking in front of the camera as well. Sometimes I feel overwhelmed with all the information that you have to learn to code. What is your advice? Where I began? I don't know. You gotta look at programming as, I don't know. You gotta change your opinion or your perspective on programming. If you feel it's overwhelming, then you're thinking about it incorrectly. Like, programming should be fun. Programming should be fun. If it's not fun for you, you gotta rethink it. You can develop as you work on your more overarching skills, like working with client, taking the lead, decision making. That's what I'm currently working on as an Android developer. Yeah. So I was watching a lot of videos about software developers and how they interact with their teammates, and not having worked at a corporate or at an actual place for the last 3 years, maybe 2.5 years, I've totally forgotten about how, you have to climb the ladder. You have to make sure that your teammates are happy, you're pleasing your boss, you're producing enough on your side to actually fulfill the goals of the marketing team. A lot of this stuff I don't have to think about anymore, and it's a huge load off my shoulders, I think. What is the difference between a protocol and delegate? I don't know, that's a big discussion. If you don't know the difference, then you probably don't care. For iOS developer, do you think it's viable to learn C++? I don't know, maybe. Current learning, even though I know I should learn Swift, Objective-C before it. Well, Lauren Nguyen, why are you learning C++? Did someone tell you that C++ was still a useful, or not useful, but a relevant language these days? Yeah, I don't know, I'm just kind of kidding. C++ is extremely hard to learn, I find, because there aren't a lot of good resources for it. Hi, I graduated this year in China. What do you say? Is it better to work first time in China like developer or go to USA? I don't know. China is not that bad these days. If you're working in a big city, then should be all right. Do you know anyone that works for Walmart Labs? I used to. Hello, when are you uploading more Kotlin videos? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Every time someone asks me for more videos, I just don't have the time to put it out. And I feel like that's such a horrible excuse. But who knows? If you're looking to work at a company as iOS dev, they definitely wouldn't have you going near C++. Yeah, I agree. So learning C++, I feel like might not be the best use of your time. Protocol and delegate is a use. Protocol, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. I feel like that question is a little bit too technical for today's video. I feel like language aspect won't really be a barrier. What I'm uncomfortable now is how to get to another country easily. Yeah, I can't help you there. I wish if there's a charity nonprofit app where people send prepaid code to Firebase and the poor pick them if they're using same service stored. I don't know. I don't know. So programmers actually, it's very rare for programmers to put out code like that. So let me put it this way. It's very difficult to spend your free time maintaining a project. So getting high quality work for free is very rare. It's not that people don't want to do it, but there's no motivation for me to like put together a project, put it somewhere, have people use it, and then having them file bugs and me spending the time to look through what's working and what's not. That's like, no one has the time for that. So I wouldn't expect for, you know, this type of thing to exist. Please do a tutorial on Apple Docs. It's kind of hard. It's like, how do I go through the Apple Docs pretending like I don't know how to read it? Maybe I will do something. Yeah, because we used to teach our students how to read the Apple Docs, and I always found it frustrating when people just didn't know how to read it. It's like, it seems like plain English to me nowadays, just reading the doc. Like, okay, this line's helpful, this line's not helpful for me. I gotta skip over this piece, and then, okay, here's the thing I actually want to learn. That's kind of how I look over the docs. What do you do nowadays that other than work for this channel in your courses? I don't think I do anything else. What? Your opinion about ReactiveX? I don't know what that is actually. How do you decide how much to charge a client for an app? I don't know. How much is your time worth? Then just charge that. Simple puzzle game. Making it look more professional. Yeah, you should definitely spend your time on the design aspects of it. Like, if you really want to show it to someone as a portfolio piece, spend the time to pick the right colors, right font, right text size, spacing, padding, workflow. Like, that's actually more important than the code itself. No one really wants to look at an ugly application, especially someone that's going to hire you. Yeah, because that's the first impression that you're going to get from the employer. They'll see that you don't pay attention to the small details of how the application looks like. That's just kind of how it works. Yeah, plans on making new React.js videos. I don't know, maybe. I like React.js a lot. Yeah, to be honest, I don't feel like I'm 100% qualified to teach React.js, but I think maybe I'll do it. So here's what I'm qualified to actually teach. I'm qualified to just walk people through a project and guiding them through how I would do it. And most of the time, that's enough for me. And that's the bar that I kind of hold, or that's the standard that I hold myself to. Yeah. And if I'm able to help someone and guide them through the process of building out some specific thing, then I've done my job, and I don't really care if other people aren't happy with it. You charge by the hour, yeah. I always wanted to ask, do you use a MacBook Pro or an iMac? So here's what I used to use. So here's that. If I flip it over, you can probably see what that says. It's a boot camp that I used to teach for. And as you can see, it's not plugged in, so obviously that's not powering the stream currently. So I have a, let's just say I have a computer that uses OS X or Mac OS, and that's what I use. So it's supposed to be a MacBook Pro, so let's just say that's what it is. Do you plan to make some new courses? Bought the Instagram podcast course. They were great. Well, thank you, Chrysler. Yeah. I'm actually working on, I have 2 courses built out. I have the code for it. So I wanted to work on one more course before I start producing videos on the actual course content. And these 3 courses are going to be smaller, and they won't be like full blown out apps, because they take way too long for me to do. Like putting together Instagram, the whole Instagram thing probably took me 3 months to do, and then adding bonus content took another month. It's not that it wasn't worth it, it's definitely worth the time, but after a while I get burnt out on that specific course. I don't want to look at the code anymore. You know what I mean? Is your company a gaming company? Yeah. Do you have a plan to do more in-depth Kotlin tutorials? How about everyone just like chip in money, and then I'll make it. That's a horrible thing to say, but the thing that motivates me to actually do one thing over the other is like, okay, if I put time in here, then I will benefit most, like the students will benefit the most here, and then I'll benefit the most monetarily here. And how do I balance this so that I can help the students out the most? And then which course do I pick to teach that fulfills the most like iOS job requirements? That's kind of how I think. What are your thoughts on Flutter? My thoughts on it is that people ask this question way too much. Any iOS 12 feature you look forward to use? Why React.js and not Angular? I don't know Angular ever since I touched Angular 1.0, like 5. No, I think it was longer than that. Probably like 7 years ago, I had to learn Angular 1.0. Way back in the day, JavaScript was really hard to build or hard to work with. Okay, they are having a conversation amongst themselves. TechTube. I like to create apps. Do you think I should take computer science or software engineer when I go to college? You should take whatever makes you happy. Crystal says, what do you think of using Reactive Swift or RX Swift for all iOS projects? That's the other major topic I want to dive into with the courses. I want to start using RX Swift as well, because it's such a useful concept to understand. Can you recommend any good coding resources with challenges tasks to do when you are coding in comfort zone? I don't know. I guess the courses on the website are always very useful because they go through different. It goes through my coding style, which I learned from a lot of different people, and I've kind of picked the best practices that you should adopt as you're learning how to program. Oh, I really need a haircut. The thing I hate most about getting a haircut is that you have to get it, or my hair grows out so fast that I have to get a haircut, and then after like 3 weeks it looks horrible again, so I have to get another haircut. I feel like why don't I just not get one and then just wait a year, just not get a haircut for a year? What do you guys think? Getting confused with all of JS frameworks? I don't know, just learn React.js. Can you please do videos on Swift for TensorFlow? Yeah, if I know how TensorFlow works, then yeah, I should, huh? I just don't know how it works, so I kind of suck at it. What's your opinion on Flutter? It shows much promise. I guess we will. This is the new 2018 question. What is your opinion on Flutter? I guess it doesn't help. It doesn't help that I produced like this video that got a ton of views on Flutter. but I guess so be it. Computer science would definitely be more relevant developing apps, but it won't be the focus. Team Treehouse, Stanford, iOS free YouTube courses, 3 months will have you up and running. Yeah, I agree. Will iPhone and Android phones be replaced by other computing platforms? I don't know. Do you see the Victor? Do you see that happening? I mean, there's more than a billion of these phones out there. I don't see it being replaced. It's the momentum for mobile phones has really taken over like computers at this point. What should I do to get from beginner to intermediate? When do you get the feeling you were good at coding? I think it took me like 5 to 6 years to finally begin to like feel I knew what I was doing. Oh God, there's a lot of questions. Okay, I am probably gonna have to grab dinner because it's 9 p.m. I think I ate something earlier. That's why I'm not feeling that hungry. But I think my voice is probably running dry. So we'll see how much longer I stick on the stream here. 1 hour and 30 minutes. I think that's more than enough for everyone that's in the chat. Probably getting bored with me by now. Not sure about your standards of beginner and intermediate, but building full out apps always helps, and then building more advanced features with additional apps. So let me tell you what I worked on when I first started iOS development. I was working on this, like, I think I showed this on the channel, but this like wheel. I wanted to just spin something on the iPad. So I bought an iPad, I built out this spinning app where I just spun it and it's kind of spun. And then after that, I worked on a chatting application that used I think Google chat services. And that was really hard, but I learned a lot about core data, how to store data on the phone, how to connect to a chat server. It was good. Coffee or tea? I am more of a coffee person. When I'm drinking like bubble tea, I prefer bubble tea, which is just pretty much loads and loads of sugar and just a little bit of tea. Time to start chipping in money, guys. Yeah, I was just kidding. You know, a lot of people support me on the website, which I'm just incredibly thankful for. And yeah, I'm just trying to produce things that you guys find helpful. Yeah. So again, this channel is not about like milking money from people. I guess I'll go on a slight tangent here about YouTube business models. And I watch a lot of these channels where people try to sell you on things, especially because they have a huge following on YouTube. And the whole channel, the purpose of their channel is to market you things and make sure that you believe what they're saying and you buy their products. So as you know, that's not a bad thing necessarily, but some of them are so aggressive with selling you on their beliefs that it becomes very transparent what they're doing. So I certainly have a respect for people that are just trying to help people out genuinely and honestly without going through the trickery of like building out their own image, trying to be something that they're not, and then ultimately selling you a product. So this channel is not really about that. Like I can obviously I can see how some people can see it that way, but that's not, you know, that's not what I'm trying to do. Really trying to help people out with what I know, because when I was going through the when I was walking through the same kind of steps and going in the same directions as some of you guys out there, you know, I always also felt confused. I didn't know where to go. I kind of struggled a little bit in the beginning, and if you know there was someone out there that was able to produce things that I could learn from, it would have been extremely helpful. So that's, you know, that's just what I'm trying to do here. and I think people are benefiting from it because, yeah, it's just that's just what it is. And if I can do this for as long as I can, then I'll try. And if I can't, then you'll see me disappear. Yeah. 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 The thing about me is I always like to do things that are a little bit different, and also a little bit challenging as well. So after having worked full time as an engineer for quite some time, I just didn't think it was that challenging anymore. Like I could have literally like applied for a bunch of different jobs, and I would have got the interview, and I would have failed some interviews obviously, and then I would have gotten an offer in a couple of different places, and it just felt like, okay, I don't want to keep doing this because I did that for the last 10 years. Work at a place for 3-4 years and then transfer to another place, get a pay bump, and then you work there, and then you go to another place and get another pay bump. I got kind of tired of that because after a while the money doesn't matter so much anymore. Like after your ego is satisfied with the amount of money that they're paying you, like another 50K or another 100K, it's like okay, that's just some more zeros in your bank account. It's like it doesn't feel satisfying or fulfilling anymore. Yeah, tips for people in boot camps going into the job market. So Jen Wong asks tips for people in boot camps. The thing about boot camps is that you want to make sure that you stand out as much as possible. Yeah. The thing about boot camps is that they don't exactly show you what the industry is expecting from a junior developer. And this is true for colleges as well. Some employers will have they'll place harsher judgment on boot camp graduates. So I know I did that sometimes when I looked at someone's resume and they appeared to not know what they were doing when they came in for the job interview. I was like, okay, this is like what I should expect from boot camp students. And at the same time, there were a lot of really good bootcamp engineers, and we hired them. And as long as they show that they're willing to learn the company's best coding practices, then I think that should be fine. Do I vote for a course? Every vote costs $1. This way, you can see which one has most interest. That's an interesting approach to democratizing which course I put out. Another Objective-C question. Yeah. It's a numbers game in the job market. So this is to address that bootcamp question. Apply to all the companies that interest you and go in with the intent of doing near a dozen interviews. You only get better at interviewing. Yep, I agree. So for me, first job I think I got after 5, probably like after 3 interviews, after like 3 different companies, 1 interview per company, and then I got an offer, and then I stopped the job hunting process. So you're gonna have to go through your fair share of interviews. I believe it's probably even harder and more competitive nowadays. So and then it's going to be even harder 5 years from now. So think about it from that perspective. Is Brian gay or les? Well, I don't think it matters, but whatever you are happy with, you should be okay with. Thank you for making time. Thank you for taking the time to make these videos and live streams. I really benefit from watching your coding style. Yep. Flutter looked great until I got mad triggered by the syntax. I really also do not like the syntax, but yeah, what can you do? Looking for a MacBook Pro for iOS development, blockchain projects. Well, do you think it's worth it to drop $2,000 on a laptop? Probably. It's the best option, I think. I paid $2,500 for my MacBook Pro 2013, so it's still working pretty well. It's a little bit slow, but I think it's been worth it. Thanks for the response. Anytime, if you're looking in the NYC area, let me know. I can shoot you some good resources and meetup groups. Yeah. I used to do meetup groups for this channel. It got so... I think I held 3 meetups in San Francisco, and just commuting there and then coming back home, carrying the projector that I had bought, and registering at the library, the public meeting spaces. It's just so much work. So huge respect for people that actually organize groups and like actually deliver on their promises on meeting up for meetups. Huge respect for those people. Okay. For $1,000, I mean, that's, you drive a hard bargain. Is that a Steins Gate poster behind me? Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna answer the Steins Gate question after I come back from the bathroom, and then I'll end the stream. Oh, people are still here. Jesus. Steins Gate poster behind me. So I don't know if a lot of people here, a lot of people here probably don't watch anime, but I'm just like so-so in terms of watching cartoons and anime. So that's a Steins Gate poster. I found I think there was a list on the internet about like really good anime series, and Steins Gate was one of them. So turns out to be not bad. I really liked it. I think the ending to that show was kind of weird, but endings are always pretty disappointing to any show. You're the real OG. Touch of sarcasm. Okay, I can't tell if I know this person. Yeah, for $1,000, how can I pass up on this offer? So where are we? Actually, I am looking in the NYC area for data science and would love to connect. Yeah, hope you guys connect, and if anything happens, please let me know. What are your recommendations for someone that's going through tutorial, free code camp, code academy, looking for a move forward for DevOps? I don't really know free code camp or code academy. I think free code camp contacted me about putting the Flutter video on their channel, but I prefer not to. It's kind of, you know, my video. How many hours programming do you work daily? I don't know. Did I say I was gonna leave? Yeah, I did say I was gonna leave. What are you expecting from iOS 12? Yeah, I don't know. Let's see if the blocking feature actually works. So, remove. Okay. Am I going to update the older apps? I don't know. I don't think so. We'll see. Okay, hello to all of the people that have just recently joined within the last 5 minutes. But I think because I've been on the stream for probably the last hour and 46 minutes, we are going to end and conclude today's show. I think I was just trying to test whether or not my computer is going to lock up on the stream. It turns out it only locked up once. I can't figure out what it is, but that's good to know. I think I've fixed something that was going wrong in the other streams, so hopefully it'll work out better in the future. And I will just try to do my best to. I don't really like doing the live streams anymore. Who knows what I'm trying to do or what I'm trying to say anymore, but that's just what I wanted to test out today. And thank you everyone for joining. I will see you guys in the next one, whatever that happens to be. Bye bye.